Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Hello and greetings. I am Samia Mohammed from Pulse of Africa News. We highlight inspiring stories and key moments that are shaping Africa. Let's begin with transboundary rivers should be viewed as drivers of cooperation. Ethiopia's transboundary rivers should be viewed as a shared natural endowment, drivers of regional cooperation and green growth, Ethiopia's water and energy minister Habtamu Itefa said. Speaking on the silence of policy discussions ahead of the African Union summit, the minister noted that Ethiopia's geography places it at the center of major regional water systems, with rivers flowing to neighboring countries. All our rivers across to neighboring countries, he said, adding to the south to Kenya and Somalia, to the west, Sudan and South Sudan. He advised the latter to recognize that the availability of transboundary rivers as a blessing for all of us and accept the fact that this water does not belong to them. Ethiopia, however, realizes that rivers originating from Ethiopia are shared resources granted by nature to benefiting all nations, he stressed.
The availability of our transboundary river is a blessing for both of us, because whatever we share with among each other is resource that we are given by God. In some part, there are also, even though there are very few, there are countries or people who don't believe this water is belonging to Ethiopia. There are countries who believe this water belongs to them, even though they contribute zero to availability of this water.
There are countries who believe this water belongs to them, even though they contribute zero to the availability of this water. He stressed that rivers originating in Ethiopia are shared resource granted by nature, benefiting all nations, noting that availability of water in Ethiopia means availability of water in Sudan, South Sudan, Kenya, Somalia, and Egypt. He said, this is the first principle everyone must understand. The transboundary rivers that originate from Ethiopia and connect us to our neighbors are opportunities for development, he added. Consistent with this line of thinking, the government of Ethiopia has been investing for a long time in watershed and basin rehabilitation. Habtamu highlighted the Green Legacy initiative, under which more than 48 billion seedlings have been planted over the past 7 years to restore ecosystem and strengthen surface and groundwater systems.
Ethiopia is contributing a lot for this water to exist. Water is not simply a water that we are having. We have been investing a lot to treat the catchments in the watershed, the basins, for years. Recently, after the reform, under the leadership of our Excellency Prime Minister, the Green Legacy Initiative is what we can talk in number what we have done in Ethiopia. The 48 billion seedlings that we have been planting the last seven years. The primary sector that is getting advantage from the Green Legacy is the water sector.
Minister noted that such environmental investments benefit the entire region by sustaining river flows and improving water quality downstream. What we are doing is not only for Ethiopia, but in the spirit of cooperation. We are building Ethiopia and also the entire region, according to the minister. As the Horn of Africa is now benefiting from what we have done, our African nations will also benefit next from what we do, he added.
The transboundary rivers that are being originated from Ethiopia and connecting us to our neighbors is the opportunity that can make us better development for our people if they have positive thinking, positive mindset. Most of them, they are on this way. Ethiopia is also on this track.
He further stated that this is green energy with zero carbon emission. It supports industrialization, attracts foreign direct investment, and strengthens regional integration. Hydropower remains the cheapest form of energy Ethiopia provides for its neighbors, while also serving as an environmentally sustainable power source that supports regional development and investment. The World Bank has allocated $20 million to Mozambique to help the country respond to the devastating floods that have swept across several provinces since mid-December, the Minister of Finance announced on Thursday. The funding is being provided under the bank's Regional Emergency Preparedness and Inclusive Recovery Access Program. According to the ministry, the funds will support immediate humanitarian and recovery efforts as heavy rains continue to inundate large parts of the country. Mozambique has been battling severe flooding triggered by persistent rainfall, with the worst impacts recorded in Gaza, Maputo, and Sofala provinces, and additional damage reported in Ihumbane and Zambeza. The floods have destroyed homes, disrupted essential service, and damaged key infrastructure, leaving thousands in need of urgent assistance. The World Bank's support is intended to strengthen the government's capacity to respond quickly to the crisis. Priority interventions include humanitarian relief, public health protection, restoration of essential service, and measures to cushion the economic and social impact of the disaster.
Ethiopia's green legacy initiatives are restoring urban parks and expanding green spaces across our cities. Green spaces protect the environment and strengthen healthy, resilient communities.
Gabon is taking decisive steps toward transforming its tourism industry. The Ministry of Sustainable Tourism and Handicrafts has officially launched a large-scale national awareness and registration campaign targeting all economic operators into the tourism sector. This ambitious initiative forms part of the implementation of Law Number 34/2020 of March 22, 2021, which governs tourism activities across the national territory. Its objective is clear: to strengthen governance, professionalize the sector, and lay the foundation for sustainable tourism and development. As part of this operation, the minister will identify and register all tourism stakeholders, with the creation of the National Digital Database at its core. The strategic tool will enable better planning, improved monitoring, and more effective regulation of tourism activities while providing reliable data to guide public policy. Beyond regulation, the initiative actively encourages operators to regularize their administrative status and promotes closer collaboration between the tourism administration, local authorities, and private sector stakeholders. Their strengths synergy aims to foster a more inclusive, coordinated, and resilient tourism ecosystem. The launch of this national operation was made possible following approval granted by Council, marking a major milestone in the structuring of Gabon's tourism sector and the professionalization in actors in full compliance with existing legal frameworks. Ultimately, this initiative is expected to significantly improve the business climate for tourism, enhance Gabon's rich local and natural potential, and position tourism as a key driver of economic growth, sustainable development, and job creation. Chadian President Mohamed Idriss Déby held talks with Emmanuel Macron at the Élysée Palace after the French president personally welcomed him in the palace courtyard. The two leaders pledged what they called a revitalized partnership based on mutual respect and shared interest, according to a joint statement issued after their meeting. Relations between Paris and N'Djamena cooled sharply in 2025 after Chadian authorities scrapped a military cooperation agreement between the two nations. Thursday's meeting was presented by both sides as an attempt to turn the page and rebuild the relationship on new foundations. The statement said the two leaders had agreed on a series of orientation that will serve as a guiding thread for revitalizing the Franco-Chadian partnership in areas of shared interest. Now to business news. The Vice President, Senator Kashim Shettima, has said the ongoing reforms of the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu are beginning to restore the confidence of global community in Nigeria. This, he said, explains why persons from foreign countries now choose to participate in professional courses like professional certification program in Nigeria. Senator Shettima made the observation during the inaugural convocation ceremony of the professional certification program held in Abuja. The Vice President, who was represented by the Deputy Chief of Staff to the President, Senator Ibrahim Hadija, noted that the first cohort of certified procurement professional is a milestone that indicates the firm resolve of the administration to implement the President's renewed hope agenda.
It shapes the quality of our roads and railways, the resilience of our healthcare system, the reach of our schools and universities, and ultimately the confidence that citizens place in their government. The administration understands that truth clearly, which is why public procurement reform occupies a central place in our government strategy. The Bureau of Public Procurement stands at the heart of this effort, and beyond its regulatory role, the BPP carries a deeper and more enduring responsibility: the cultivation of a professional, ethical, and highly competent procurement workforce.
Shettima recalled that many years back, procurement in Nigeria was considered as an administrative necessity that was often misinterpreted and abused. Far from such perception, he said procurement under the present administration is at the core of governance, and that the manner in which public resources are transformed into roads, hospitals, schools, security infrastructure, and social service is under its control. To the ground dots, Shettima reminded them that they are the pioneers among the graduates who bear a unique obligation due to their status as the first, just as he urged them to ensure their consensus is guided by their certification. Algeria has moved to accelerate one of its flagship industrial projects, placing the phosphate mining and export program under tight presidential oversight amid mounting delays. At the recent Council of Ministers meeting, progress was reviewed on the mining railway linking Blad al-Hadba to Oud el-Kabrit and the port of Annaba, as well as dedicated phosphate export quay. President Abdulmajid Tebboune ordered a sharp acceleration of works, imposed a strict timetable, and introduced enhanced monitoring mechanism. The project, deemed strategic by the presidency, is intended to turn phosphate into a new engine of growth and help diversify an economy still heavily reliant on hydrocarbons. Authorities now target completion by the end of 2026, with commissioning planned for early 2027, supported by monthly progress report and reinforced interministerial coordination. However, the need for direct presidential intervention highlights persistent execution challenges, including bureaucratic delays and coordination constraints. While officials point to advance in rail, energy, and port infrastructure, questions remain over cost, profitability, and competitiveness in global phosphate market. An international partnership between Somifos and Indonesia's Pupuk Group aims to bolster the project's credibility, but the industrial ecosystem remains at an early stage. Whether this top-down push can convert a long-delayed mega project into a durable economic pillar remains an open question. Now to sports news. FIFA has launched a new legacy program linked to the FIFA Women's Champions Cup 2026 to expand opportunities for female coaches and strengthen leadership pathways in women's football. The project brings together FIFA, the Football Association, and Women's Super League Football. It focuses on training, mentorship, and financial support for women who want to reach the highest coaching levels in England. At the core of the project is a scholarship fund. It will support female coaches working toward UEFAA and UEFA Pro diplomas. These licenses remain key requirements for top-level coaching jobs. FIFA Chief Football Officer Jill Ellis described the program as a step toward building a stronger football ecosystem. The focus, she noted, is long-term growth and not only tournament success. The program also includes a personalized development pathway. Coaches already in the system will receive leadership training, mentoring, and access to high-performance environments. Organizers expect this approach to speed up career progression. The FA views the partnership as a way to make elite education more accessible. Officials believe lowering financial and structural barriers will allow more women to enter senior technical roles. Let's take a look at the weather forecast across Africa. That's for the hour. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye.
The African Union Summit is the continent's highest decision-making forum, bringing together leaders from all 55 member states to shape Africa's shared future. The 39th AU Summit in Addis Ababa, February 2026, is especially important as it puts water security and sanitation at the center of Africa's development agenda, alongside peace, economic integration, and climate resilience. So, starting with the first question, when we look at the African Union as an institution, it often reflects Africa's priorities, so in a particular moment in time. From your perspective, what makes the 39th AU Summit distinct from the other summits, and why does it matter for the continent at this moment?
Thank you for having me during this discussion, Raul. So what makes the 39th AU Summit 2026 unique is its deliberate focus on everyday development realities. As you remember, last year the theme was justice for Africans and people of African descent. This year the AU has come up with specifically on water availability and sanitation issues that affect millions of Africans on a daily basis. So the sustainable development cannot be only achieved through economic growth or political stability. It requires addressing the basic system that supports human life. So by opening the floor for the integration of water and sanitation into a continental agenda, the AU is signaling a shift toward long-term resilience rather than short-term reliability.
In particular, water and sanitation are often discussed as technical and humanitarian issues. So why do you think the African Union is elevating them to a strategic or political priority of the highest level at this time?
It's because, in Swahili, people often say that maji ni uhai. This directly translates to water is life. So in Arabic also it means al-ma asas al-haya. This means water is the basis of life. So in African communities, water is deeply interconnected with nearly every sector of development, as I've said before. And for example, we can see that food security comes through agriculture, energy production comes through hydropower, public health through sanitation system, and even peace and security in regions where resources are scarce. So by framing water and sanitation as strategic priorities, the AU is recognizing them as enablers of economic growth, social stability, regional cooperation, rather than isolated infrastructure settings.
So if we are going to talk about water, it's hard to ignore given that Africa has shared rivers, lakes, and groundwaters. How important is regional cooperation in achieving sustainable water management in the continent?
So I'm really glad you said it is hard to ignore, because regional cooperation is absolutely essential. It's something we need on the table every day. So many of African water systems are transboundary. So meaning that unilateral action is neither effective or sustainable. The summit provides an opportunity for leaders and communities on grassroots levels to strengthen collective governance mechanisms, reduce potential resource-based tensions, and promote shared investment in water infrastructure that benefits multiple countries simultaneously.
I see. So while the summit emphasizes development priorities, Africa continues to see persistent security challenges, as we all know. So how do peace and security considerations intersect with the summit's development agenda?
As we've seen in our previous Pulse of Africa episodes, peace and development are mutually reinforcing. They are interdependent at the core. So without stability, infrastructure cannot be built or maintained, and public services cannot reach vulnerable populations. For example, in the case of Ethiopia, Ethiopia maintains a cooperative approach in regards to utilizing goods, output, and resources. In case of Kenya and Uganda, they have a model of cooperation in relation to free movement and access to resources. So this shows that the AU, integrating this concept into the upcoming summit, understands that water insecurity can arise from conflict and contribute further to it. So therefore, addressing water access and sanitation is also a preventive investment in peace, and especially in fragile and conflict-affected regions.
Okay, I see. So the African Union often emphasizes Agenda 2063 as Africa's long-term roadmap or blueprint. So how does the focus of the summit translate that vision into actual practical action?
You brought up Agenda 2063, so I would like to quote what the document says in relation to this. So Africa shall have equitable and sustainable use and management of water resources for socio-economic development, regional cooperation, and the environment. So this is the popular version of the document stating that Africa shall enforce this sense of fair distribution based on equitable access, regional cooperation, and the environment as a whole. So through the alignment with this year's theme in the document specifically, many questions await. For example, how are issues of fair distribution going to be addressed? Through AU's economic integration, with the access to sea questions of landlocked countries be also addressed? So in order to ensure that Agenda 2063 remains at the heart of African implementation, it should be remained grounded in people's lived realities, meaning that it is important that water security and sanitation are foundational to this vision in order for it to be implemented as a whole.
The main point you try to emphasize is integration and being specific, economic integration, particularly through AFCFTA, is often highlighted as a game changer for the continent. So how does the water security relate to Africa's economic integration ambitions?
AFCFTA is, of course, a game changer. And in this game, water is a silent driver of economic integration. This is the key moment of the game which you want to utilize while knowing that you're always going to win. So this means when you integrate water into cooperative-based approaches, as I've said, you know there's going to be a win-win approach. So agriculture, manufacturing, mining, and energy production, all sectors depend on reliable water systems. Without sustainable water infrastructure, the benefits of AFCFTA cannot be fully realized. So in that sense, water security underpins Africa's broader industrial and trade ambitions.
Moving on to a broader sense of the term, let's talk about climate. And the climate change is intensifying water-related risks across the continent. So how does the summit address the growing challenges of the climate change?
As you've said, climate change poses a threat that cannot be escaped at this moment. But what we can do is we need communal action towards climate change. This agenda shouldn't be remained at the discussion halls of leaders. It should come down to grassroots level implementation of the community as a whole, the young as a whole. So the summit reinforces the need for climate resilient water and sanitation systems. It also strengthens Africa's collective voice in global climate negotiations, particularly around climate finance and adaptation support. As you've seen in the last Africa Climate Summit, we've seen many parts of the society participating towards the greener mission of Africa. So this signals that this approach positions Africa not just as a victim of climate change, but as a proactive actor shaping sustainable solutions.
Moving on to use, innovation, and the future, Africa's demographic reality is heavily a youthful population. So how does the summit engage use and innovation in addressing the challenges you mentioned now?
So In my experience, I've met foreigners saying that Africa is rich because of the youth it has. So this continent is very rich in terms of the youth population, in terms of the new energy that we are expecting every now and then. So the youth are central in innovation and long-term sustainability. From digital water management systems to community-led sanitation solutions, young Africans are already driving change. We've seen very spectacular sense of innovations when it comes to utilizing water properly from many Africans. So this summit highlights the importance of investing in skills, technology and entrepreneurship to ensure that Africa's demographic dividend becomes a development advantage. Many youth await for a sense of financing, a sense of belief in their ability. So I think this is crucial in terms of bridging youth innovation in the future as a whole.
I see, that's very important. In concluding our discussion, looking beyond the summit itself, what would meaningful success look like in the years that follow for the continent?
So, meaningful success requires translation, meaning that if something is written and not implemented, it doesn't mean that it reached the goal it was meant to reach. So, in order to translate these commitments into measurable actions, improved access to clean water, reduced sanitation-related diseases, stronger regional cooperation, and greater resilience towards climate shocks are incredibly crucial. So ultimately, the success of this summit, the 39th AU Summit, will be measured by how effectively it will improve the quality of life for African citizens. The questions I have raised before in terms of cooperation, in terms of access to greater economy, to sea, and in terms of mitigating a sense of African approach towards resolving conflicts that may arise from water insecurity.
So you are emphasizing that the implementation is more important than just creating policies or discussing about the topics.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
That's very amazing insight, and thank you for joining me today. Thank you, our viewers, for watching us today.